Hey guys, it's Sandro here, and today we've got a 2-year-old 2019 BMW X5 diesel in pearl white for a full exterior decontamination correction and coating job that I really hope you guys enjoy. Now as I start this detail off by giving the wheels a good thorough clean, I'll fill you in on this job. This BMW X5 belongs to a really nice husband and wife couple who bought it from interstate just a couple of months before they came into my shop. This job was done earlier this year, and at that point the vehicle was just about a year and a half old. Now as much as they love it, it doesn't look like it's been maintained all that well. And if I'm being completely honest, it looks a little rougher than you'd expect an 18-month-old vehicle to be. As you hopefully would have seen in the previous pre-inspection footage, there's a decent amount of scuffs, a little damage and deeper scratches on the paint and plastic trims, and certainly a good amount of road tar and heavy contamination, particularly on the lower panels. I know one thing the owners did mention was that even after giving this X5 some really good intensive washes, they still couldn't get the white paint properly clean. So in essence, they came to me because they want this relatively new and expensive BMW X5 to firstly look a little nicer and newer, and then with some protection in place, be able to clean and maintain it well moving forward. The other thing to mention is that it's going to be a high mileage daily driver. They don't have a garage for it, and they also aren't looking for perfection. Just a much better look and result to start out their new ownership with this really nice vehicle. The reason I like to give you guys this info and start with the pre-inspection footage of the vehicle is because this information really helps me determine what the best level of service is for each individual job and customer, as well as what I'm really up for in terms of labour. The work I do is very bespoke towards not only the vehicle but also the client's budget, wants and needs. And without all that vital information, it's just impossible for me to quote a job that's not only fair towards my clients but also fair to me, in really understanding the condition of the vehicle, what the customer's expectations are, and what's really involved for me to get from point A to point B. Now with the wheels in particular, they do have a little gutter rash damage in several spots, and I know the owners want to get them fixed and refinished. So I'm not going to be applying a ceramic coating to them, as that will be pointless and an unfair additional cost if they're going to be repaired and refinished. So I'm just giving them a really good clean, and if I have time, I'll apply a temporary sealant to help protect them and make it easier to maintain them until the owners get them fixed. The other thing to point out here is that this vehicle is huge. Even the wheels are 21 inch, which in itself does create increased time and labour just getting around all this extra real estate, which is really something you have to factor in. It doesn't always translate in the video footage, but I spent a good 15 to 20 minutes on each wheel, which might not sound like a lot of time, but times it by 4 and it's a chunk of time. That's what it took me to get them to a good clean standard that I was happy with using a safe and respectful process. Now to start softening, dissolving and loosening all the dirt and environmental contamination, I started off by pre-treating the paint and trims with NV Purify. So Purify is an iron and traffic film remover that also have lubricants that allow you to additionally clay the paint with it. But in this instance, I'm using it as a pre-foam wash treatment to increase the potential grime removal before the hand wash stage. I'm spraying it over the entire surface and I'm going to allow it to sit for at least 5 minutes or until it starts to dry up, at which point I'm going to snow foam the vehicle over Purify with a slightly stronger alkaline based detergent to let both Purify and the decontamination foam continue working for another good 5 to 10 minutes. I've used this analogy a lot that it's like soaking your pots and pans in soapy water before cleaning them. It helps soften and loosen the grime so that a lot of it just comes off by rinsing and the rest of the more stubborn stuff still comes off easier and requires less aggression to achieve a great result in the end. You'll hopefully also notice that even after I foam the vehicle, Purify still keeps on working and pulling off the environmental fallout. I'll lastly mention here that unlike dedicated iron removers that just attack metal particles, Purify also breaks down other traffic film and environmental contaminants. So it won't tend to have the same intense purple color reaction as a dedicated iron remover. So to have this sort of purple reaction from Purify is a good sign that there's a lot of fallout on this X5, which again is strange for an 18-month-old vehicle, but really useful information to have moving forward. So after allowing Purify to soak for a good 10 minutes or so, and then allowing both Purify and Snow Plus to soak for another good 10 minutes, it was then time to give the vehicle a good, thorough pressure rinse down. I just want you guys to understand that method and technique is crucial in determining whether you have success or failure here. Just going through these motions doesn't mean you get the optimal outcome. You have to allow these chemicals and detergents enough time to do their thing, and you have to follow up with a really involved and methodical pressure rinsing process to get a fantastic result here. So yes, good products and general processes matter, but what matters more is great technique and a willingness to be precise and methodical in your approach. What I'll lastly add here is that for you guys that do regularly use chemicals such as APCs and degreasers, as well as iron and tar removers, you'll notice that they are sometimes a lot of work to rinse off the paint. So one thing I've noticed about this specific use of chemicals is that the snow foam actually helps lift Purify off the paint, and as such makes it a lot easier and quicker to rinse off, which is something I really love about this process. Now I have to say that even before I got to the hand wash stage, I was pretty impressed at just how much of the existing dirt and grime I was able to remove in a touchless manner. But in saying that, I could still certainly both see and feel a layer of contamination on the paint and trims that most definitely would need a physical clean in order to remove it. I know it's sometimes tempting to grab a wash mitt and start being a bit more aggressive in scrubbing back and forth with increased pressure to get the paint to a cleaner state. But my advice is to try and avoid it, as it's most likely going to result in added swirls and scratches, as well as going over existing swirls and scratches and making them a little deeper, and ultimately meaning more aggression and clear coat removal in the next paint correction stage. Not to sound too cliche, but the best way to approach this wash and decontamination stage, if you not only want the most effective but also the safest and most respectful results, is to approach it like peeling an onion and removing layers at a time. So the first layer of grime removal was the pre-wash soaks and a pressure rinse down. The second was a gentle hand wash, and you'll see that there's a few more layers and processes to come. If you just jump in there hammer and tong and try to get all the contamination off in one go, that's simply going to result in overly aggressive and really unnecessary damage to the paint and trims. As someone who started out doing car washes for just a few bucks and now doing high-end details for a few $1,000s, I understand all the different budgets, scenarios and circumstances that just don't allow for everyone to do everything the same, nor should they. So I'm not being judgmental here, I'm just trying to explain that there are reasons for doing things a certain way when you do have the time, means, budget and willingness to do so. Now after the hand wash, there was just no getting around that the trims would need a decent brushing in order to loosen, lift and remove some of the embedded dirt and road contamination in those tight areas. For this I used NV Snow Plus at a 1:10 dilution ratio with a small detailing brush. Although the door jambs weren't really meant to be part of this job due to the client's limited budget, I did decide to give them a slightly more intensive clean rather than just wiping them down, because after a closer inspection I really felt they needed it. You'll also see that after this stage I gave the vehicle another pressure rinse down, really focusing in on flushing out the trims and door jambs to stop the dirt and detergent from resettling and drying up in those areas. Now, based on both a slightly tacky feel to the paint and really poor hydrophobic behaviour, it was pretty safe to say that there was no waxes, sealants or coating on the paint that I had to worry about removing. But what I could still feel was quite a few bumps of iron particles on the paint and trims, and what I could still see was quite a few tar deposits on the lower panels of the paint. Now I'd say that at least 80, if not 90% were removed during the previous wash and decontamination stages, but this last 10 to 20% of them would require a more specific approach. So firstly, for the tar deposits, I used CarPro Tarex all along the lower panels and trims, spraying it on and allowing it to sit for about 3 to 5 minutes before priming a cloth with Tarex and then wiping the tar deposits down, which really seemed to work a treat. Now for the remaining environmental fallout that was really on all the horizontal panels, I used CarPro Imolube at a 1 to 15 dilution ratio with the Economax clay cloth. I started off by doing a test with next to no pressure and just doing a very quick and non-aggressive pass, which turns out that was all that was really needed to get the fallout off super quick and effectively. The thing about fallout is that it's not always the same. Sometimes you have very uniform fallout coverage, which an iron removal chemical is advised in that case, as it's a less aggressive approach to removing most of it. And my guess is that the pre-wash treatment with NV Purify, as well as the other steps, help remove that finer layer of environmental fallout on this vehicle. So what's left over here now is just the more random and slightly larger particles that a chemical just isn't going to remove. So clay is what's needed here. But the fact that all the lighter and vast amount of these particles were previously removed makes this final claying stage much safer and quicker. Now I've got to say that for fake exhaust tips that are only 18 months old, these were surprisingly bad in relation to carbon deposits. But I'd say the fact that we've got some pretty nasty diesel quality fuel here in Australia is a cause. So I used P21S polishing soap to help get them respectfully clean, which did actually take a lot more work than anticipated. The vehicle was then given a final pressure rinse down, followed by a quick towel dry to gather the majority of the water, that was then followed up with a blow dry using the Metrovac Pro to remove all the trapped water before the vehicle was placed into the paint correction bay. So how long did this take? Well, the whole wash and decontamination process together with the filming was a full and very long day's work. I guess you could subtract a few hours due to filming time, which would make it more like a 3/4 day, but in any case, it was quite a few hours getting this large 4x4 back to a clean bare state. I will say that even before I got to the paint correction, this BMW X5 just looked so much cleaner, crisper and whiter, with just a good thorough exterior clean that really had a huge impact. But I hope you guys stay tuned for part 2 and the all time consuming paint correction process coming up soon. If you enjoyed this video and would like to say thanks and help support future content, you can do so by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ccad, which I'll have a link to in the description box. And thank you everyone for the support so far. As always, I really hope you guys enjoyed and found this video useful. Please give it a like, comment below, share it with others, and subscribe to this channel to show support for this content, and I'll see you guys soon.